Modern dating is awful. I know, I've been there. If you're struggling and you're looking to understand why this is happening and what you can do about it, we're going to talk about that in today's video. Hit that like button so you can help with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe so you don't miss out on our videos in the future. Stick around. Before we get to the 3 reasons, we're going to start off with talking about where relationships kind of came from. So throughout history, marriage, which is the main form of long-term romantic relationship that we see, was primarily used as a way for families to strengthen themselves. So this could be economically through, trading, or through like creating trade partnerships. This could be through creating alliances between families or even countries. And it was typically done in some way to strengthen the foundation of a family. And this also exists because marriage in general, its main purpose for most of human history was to create children. Children have been used for labor throughout a lot of human history. So being able to have more children basically meant that there's more income for your family because there's more ways for you to feed, produce income or produce goods. When you think about what relationship must be like as an arranged marriage, it's the dramatic opposite of what you're dealing with on something like Tinder. So in an arranged marriage, you're literally sometimes meeting someone for the first time, sometimes you've met them before, but you're making a commitment to them in front of everyone that you know. And the social pressure of those people will help enforce and stabilize your marriage. So in an arranged marriage, for most of human history, if you didn't get along, no one cares, because you have to keep going. You had to continue honoring and loving the person that you're with. And the idea of romantic love in the form that we see it today, it either just didn't exist culturally, or in a lot of cases, cultures actually viewed it as something sort of like a mental illness, like a temporary mental illness. And it's really interesting that if you take a really famous work of art and that talks about romantic love, and that's so Romeo and Juliet from Shakespeare, it's even the story itself has been romanticized and turned into this ballad about love. But what Shakespeare was actually talking about is how the love of two 15-year-old kids ended up with the murder of over 10 people and the deaths of both of them. This is not a pleasant story about how romantic love is important and foundational, like you see in all the movies and books that are common in Western civilization right now. This was him saying that that love is a very, very potent and sometimes destructive force. And I think anyone who's actually really experienced being in love understands that you can make some really bad choices because of the way you feel about someone. And that does have a tendency to blind you to certain consequences. So I'm not saying that this is that dating is bad because of this. It's just good to know the history. So let's take a look at how this actually relates to modern dating. So if you think about what the difference between someone who is meeting someone or has only met them a couple times and then is like giving their entire life, dedicating their whole life to them in front of everyone that you know, versus what's very common now is where you have to try and catch someone's attention in the first half a second to second that they see your picture, or you'll be discarded. This is just a very different way of approaching relationships. And there's sort of extremes and opposite extremes if you think about it that way. So the first reason that dating is so hard is that because of our short attention spans, dating apps and online dating requires the creation of an illusion. And what I mean by that is that you can't possibly fit everything about who you are as a person into 200 words and 5 photos. I think that's a pretty obvious thing to state. But the problem is that when we look at somebody, we meet them on an app, like I'm going to use Tinder, but this is true for all of them, is that your initial impression, your first impression of that person is the illusion that they are creating for you. And so for the best people that you'll meet out there, it's a shadow of who they are. But in the worst case, it's a completely fabricated person. There's a lot of different terms that have come out of online dating that relate to meeting somebody who's just not the real person that they're presenting. And so either way, when you meet someone and this is the method that you're meeting them, there's an illusion that both of you have to get by before you can actually start seeing the right person. And the issue is that if you don't get by this quickly, you can start a relationship with a complete illusion, meaning that you like the idea of who they are better than actually being with the person. And this is also happens in other ways because people will start a relationship entirely based on physical appearance, and then they'll project all the rest of the things that they like about the person. And then you find out that, you don't actually get along with that person that well. And so the way to deal with this is to start by trying to pop that illusion as quickly as possible, both the illusion that they have of you and the illusion that you have of them. Because in order to enter into a real relationship, you actually have to see the person that you're with. All right, and number 2 is too many options creates shallow relationships. The fact that you can go online and you can look at dozens and dozens of people who are looking for relationships of all sorts, it gives you options. And things like Facebook, where you can kind of have people that you're keeping your eye on. They may be in a relationship, but you're keeping an eye in case they're not going to be in a relationship soon. Things look rocky. All those types of things, they create mental backdoors out of any potential relationship that you get into. So what tends to happen is that when those illusions start to get popped and you start seeing that things aren't the way that you thought they were, then you start thinking about exit strategies. And this is really challenging because relationships really only work when there's a strong foundation. And a strong foundation is two people bringing in every part of who they are into the relationship and moving forward from there. And this, once again, it's partially about seeing the other person, but part of it's about seeing yourself, honestly. If you don't pay attention to your own shortcomings and your own strengths, and you're going to have a really hard time showing up in a relationship in a way that's actually helpful and meaningful to that relationship, and in a way that's going to support it. And that brings us to the third one, which is just entering into relationships for the wrong reasons. And this is a really hard one for people because a lot of people, their lives are a mess. And what they're looking for in a relationship is someone who's going to make them happy. And this is just the worst thing that you can do going into a relationship. A relationship can absolutely bring joy into your life. It can make good things better. It can make bad things not as bad. But you're never going to meet someone who's going to make you happy. And if you do, you are definitely still in that illusion phase because there's no one out there who's going to solve all your problems for you. If you were unhappy outside of a relationship, you are going to be unhappy in a relationship. And you're setting yourself up for failure. And so the way to really deal with this is you have to be honest about what are your needs? What are your challenges? What are you good at? What are you not good at? What do you need to be happy? If you're really Christian and they're very Jewish and that's a big problem for you, don't get yourself into a relationship like that. Another common one that I see a lot now is people who are poly entering into relationships with people who are monogamous. That's a really bad combination. If you are poly and the person that you really like is monogamous, it's not going to work out well because your needs are different. And so there's a lot of different levels that you have to look at. And some of it is, who am I as a person? What are my tendencies? What are my strengths? And then some of it's just, where is my life going? What kind of life do I want to live? All of that requires depth and it requires honesty and being able to say to somebody that they're the wrong person for you because the lives that you want to live are just incompatible. And that's a hard thing to do, especially if there's somebody that intellectually they look really good on paper, they meet all the check boxes you have for them, and they make you laugh. But if they want a completely different life than you, it's just not going to work. And those are the types of conversations that require honesty, and they require really getting to know a person. You need to understand what is it that they are looking for and what makes them happy and what makes them get out of bed in the morning. And all of those types of things require just honesty and depth. And the more that you are willing to do that and go into uncomfortable places with them about what they want and who they are and in yourself, the more likely you are to form a relationship that actually lasts. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on weekly videos. I enjoy helping people with relationships, but my real passion, believe it or not, is helping men with erectile dysfunction. So if you're struggling with erectile dysfunction, there's a link down below on how you can get some help from me. Just go ahead and book a strategy session with me and I'll help guide you through what's going on. All right, I'll see you next week.